I downloaded an app that generates videos of yourself in the future, and I didn't expect the horror I saw. I'd been scrolling through Reddit and TikTok in bed for several hours when, still bored, I finally went to my phone's app store to find some funny apps to pass the time. I finally stumbled across this app. It was simply called Your Future. It had no rating, and the description consisted of one sentence: application in beta test that lets you see a video of yourself in the future. It was so stupid that I couldn't resist downloading it just to see how ridiculous it was going to be. Maybe I'll see myself at graduation day and at least it'll give me some hope. The app was pretty light, and within a minute it was downloaded. The logo appeared on my phone, a simple white question mark in a black square. Okay, weird, I said aloud. Then I thought maybe they hadn't had time to make a decent logo yet. This was shaping up to be even funnier than expected. I launched the application. The screen went completely black. For a moment, I was afraid I'd downloaded a virus. Then I told myself that, if it was on the App Store, then they must have checked that the app wasn't dangerous. A few seconds later I breathed again as I saw the screen change. The black screen hadn't moved in the background, but a sentence had appeared on the screen. It simply said, "Press here if you wish to discover your future." I pressed it, and for a few hundredths of a second I swore I saw my face appear on the screen. I sat up straight. I felt as if the camera had switched on and off at once, but it happened so fast that I couldn't be sure. Okay, I'm out, better safe than sorry. I didn't wait any longer to put an end to this experience and uninstalled the app the next second. After all, even Apple could make mistakes and let dangerous apps through, and there had definitely been some weird stuff going on, so I wasn't going to take the risk. "Tony, dinner's ready," shouted my mom downstairs. "Coming," I replied, before walking out of my room, leaving my phone on my bed. I returned to my room after dinner, and spent several hours playing on my computer. At around 11 o'clock p.m., I couldn't hold back the yawn any longer, and finally turned off the PC before going to bed. Before turning off the light, I decided to browse a bit on TikTok and Reddit. But when I took my phone, I noticed a strange notification. Video upload completed. What the hell is this? And finally, I saw the logo on the notification. A white question mark on a black background. I was stumped. I was sure I'd uninstalled the application before going to dinner, so what the hell was the notification doing here? I checked my apps, and indeed, the logo had reappeared. I put my phone down on my mattress and held my head in my hands, trying to think. Either I'd caught a virus for real, or the app had bugged and hadn't uninstalled properly. It didn't seem all that unrealistic to me. After all, I'd uninstalled it while it was still running, and the description said it was a beta version. I decided to put my faith in the skills of Apple's employees and conclude that it had probably just been a bug. The notification was still in the top bar of my screen. I figured that if I already had a virus, I didn't know what more it could do. And in the best case scenario, I'd actually see a ridiculous video and be able to relax and tell myself that yes, it was just a shitty app. I pressed the notification and the download folder on my phone came up. Apparently, the video had downloaded itself. The thumbnail was completely black, so I had no idea what I was about to see. I pressed the button and the video started. It was dark, and someone was using a flashlight attached to their head, as was the camera, to illuminate the area around them. I could only see the hands and feet of the person filming. A man, obviously, if the pronounced hairiness of his hands was anything to go by. The lamp he was using was pretty bad and I could barely see where he was. Then he stopped in front of a frame on a piece of furniture, and I immediately realized where it was. It was a photo of me and my family. The same frame, which stood in the kitchen on the ground floor. My breathing stopped and my heartbeat raced. How could this be possible? Before I could think of an answer to this question, I saw the man heading for the stairs. To the floor where my bedroom and my parents' bedroom were located. I stood up suddenly and listened through the crack of my door. I could still hear my parents commenting on the movie they were watching downstairs in the living room. I turned my attention back to my phone screen. The man continued up the stairs in total darkness and silence. I was in a trance, holding the phone in both hands, still standing. Once upstairs, I could see my bedroom door appear. But the man turned right, towards my parents' bedroom. He switched off the flashlight, plunging the screen into complete darkness. And slowly, I heard the door to my parents' room open over the speakers. He took several steps inside, and I heard him lightly touch the end of the wooden bed with one of his boots. At that moment he turned the flashlight back on, but the light was pointing down so I couldn't see anything. Nothing, that is, except the large knife that had appeared in his hand. Slowly he raised the flashlight, and I could see my parents lying peacefully asleep. The man stepped over my mother. Back in reality, I had put one of my hands in front of my mouth, and my eyes were wide with dread at what I was about to see. The man suddenly put his gloved hand over my mother's mouth and stabbed her in the throat with a sharp blow. I saw her eyes wide with surprise as she stared at the camera. Her body tensed suddenly, then relaxed, as blood spurted everywhere. She finally closed her eyes, and the man removed his hand from her mouth. He then moved to the other side of the bed opposite my father. This time he put his hand over my father's mouth again, and at the same time, with a sharp blow, he stabbed him in the heart. My father's eyes widened in surprise too, before closing forever like my mother's just before. The man slowly backed away, still filming the bed, as if he wanted to immortalize the moment. After a moment, he left the room. I was still standing in my room watching the video, biting my arm to keep myself from screaming. The only thing keeping me sane was the sound of the movie, and my parents' voices laughing in the living room downstairs. It wasn't real. Nothing I saw could be. And yet, the more the seconds passed, the harder it became to deny what was in front of me. Back on the video, the man was turning towards the other end of the corridor. Towards my room. No, 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 I couldn't help whispering. But he couldn't hear me, and he moved relentlessly towards my bedroom door. Again he cut the flashlight and slowly pushed the door open. I heard him take a few steps, then touch the end of my bed with one of his boots as he had done with my parents. He turned the flashlight back on. And here I was. Asleep in my bed. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was going to do it. He was going to kill me. He approached me, knife in hand. "Stop!" I whispered. He delicately placed his gloved hand over my mouth and put the tip of his blade to my throat. "Honey?" I screamed. Just in front of me, in the real world, was my mom. "What are you still doing awake at this hour and in front of your door?" "Go to bed," she said, before heading off to their bedroom herself without giving me time to answer anything. I stood there, my heart on the verge of stopping. I went and sat down on my bed, trying to catch my breath. It had to be a fake, it could only be a fake. I concentrated on my breathing by closing my eyes, and finally managed to get my heart rate under control. I looked at my phone screen again, the video had ended and returned to the start. Fortunately, I hadn't seen my own murder thanks to my mom's interruption, and I didn't intend to rewind the video to see it. I spent several minutes trying to rationalize, without much success. Then I had an idea. I went back to the download folder and accessed the detailed information on the video file. And there, right in front of my eyes, was what I'd been dreading most. Date, March 18, 2024, 11 p.m. 57. It was a bright Saturday morning and I had sat on the couch to watch the local news channel with a large cup of coffee and a bagel, like I always did. Something about the mundane stories out of our little town the anchors would report on had a calming effect on me, and it was always a nice way to start my weekend. I had moved here for a fresh start just over a year ago and managed to snag a room in a lovely townhouse with two friends, Julian and Luca, as roommates. The weatherman was in the middle of giving us the welcome news that it'd be a warm spring weekend when I noticed something odd on the annotated map. The temperature had read 60 degrees Fahrenheit for as long as I'd been watching, but then displayed the word run in lowercase before morphing back into the temperature. I thought it was odd and let out a chuckle of bemusement, but chalked it up to a simple production error and took another bite of my bagel. As the weatherman said his goodbyes, the chipper anchors took back control with the story of our mayor running for state senator when another part of the screen snatched my attention. The ticker at the bottom of the broadcast had just read local representative runs in state election but was flickering into something different that I unfortunately could not quite make out. After struggling with this for a little while longer, I reached into my pocket and grabbed my phone so I could take a video and pause it when the flickering momentarily stopped to satisfy my curiosity about what was being shown. When I played the video back, the innocuous headline morphed into the chilling sentence, "They are not your friends." I felt a shiver work its way down my spine at the implied meaning, but the overriding emotion was still one of confusion. I switched off the TV and decided to move on with my day, as we were supposed to be going to a concert tonight. The artists are all very well known and it was a big deal for our small town, which meant that Julian and Luca wanted to see the band leave their hotel so they could get autographs and a few pictures, but I wasn't as enthused, so decided to hang back and meet them at the downtown arena a couple of hours before showtime. I spent the bulk of the day lounging around and video chatting with a close friend from my hometown and only noticed that I had to get ready to leave because my phone buzzed with the reminder my forgetful but smart former self had left. After getting dressed, my phone let out a ping from my back pocket and I assumed it'd be my friends asking if I had left the house yet. I was surprised to see that whilst Julian had sent a message to our group chat, it read, "Hope you haven't left yet. Lead singer got sick and they're sending us all home," followed by Luca's "So damn annoying. Hope he gets better soon and we can make the new date." I replied, "Was just about to leave. Thanks for the heads up guys and sorry you couldn't see the show tonight." I made my way back through the hallway and into the living room, figuring that the local news would have picked up on the story by now and I might get to see my friends amongst the crowd at the hotel on the TV. Oddly enough, there was no mention of a cancellation and in actual fact, the male anchor from earlier was reporting live from outside the arena and repeatedly mentioned his excitement at being able to see this live at no cost as a news reporter and a huge fan of the band. Whilst I was beginning to feel a strange gut feeling, my ever-rational mind convinced me that the news channel had been playing up all day and that this must simply be a rerun from an earlier report, and so I switched the television off and decided to make plans with some other friends to head out that night. As I walked out of the living room, I heard the distinctive bzzzt sound that our old TV makes when it turns on and swiveled my head around to see the news was on. The headline read, "Arena concert postponed due to band sickness," and the reporter was again broadcasting from outside the arena with a now dejected, depressed look on his previously joyous face. He went on to describe the same situation Julian and Luca had told me about, but the headline flickered again just as it had that morning. This time I was able to read it clearly enough after squinting. "Let them in. They are your friends. Let them in. Let them in. Let them in." Almost immediately after comprehending what the television read, I heard the familiar and distinctive knock of my roommates at the front door. Everything in my body was telling me not to open it, but I felt compelled to in a way I had never felt before. It was as if I had been ordered to let them in and any attempts to do otherwise were bound to be futile. I twisted the key into the hole and swung the door open. Julian and Luca stood in front of me, their smiles growing wider until their lips were stretched to the point of impossibility. They spoke in perfect unison in a flat tone. "Thank you for letting us in, thank you for letting us in, thank you for letting us in." That was 3 days ago, and since then I have been noticing terrible things. The messaging in the news is becoming increasingly demanding and violent. It says I have to become like them. I will become one of them. I must replace my old self. My smile grows wider each and every morning. I have been finding texts I don't remember sending, and even when I have a key with me I have to ask to be allowed into our home. I don't know how to stop any of this. I needed to get this out there before it takes over, before I am lost.